What if justice isn't what you've always believed it to be? What if the idea of a just society is far more radical and far more personal than voting, laws, or punishment? In a time when the world is more divided than ever, philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, and even Confucius ask the question that still haunts us today: what is justice, and how should we live together? In ancient Athens, Plato watched his teacher Socrates be sentenced to death, not because he did wrong, but because the society he lived in feared his ideas. From this injustice, Plato crafted a revolutionary question: what would a truly just society look like? In his work The Republic, Plato argued that justice begins inside the soul. He believed a just person mirrors a just city. If your reason rules over your desires, like wise rulers lead a city, then justice is not just external, but internal. He described a tripartite soul, made of reason, spirit, and appetite, and said that only when these parts are in harmony can a person be truly just. And when individuals live in inner harmony, the state can too. But justice, for Plato, wasn't democracy. He criticized democracy as unstable, too easily swayed by the masses. Instead, he proposed rule by philosopher kings, wise individuals trained in truth, reason, and virtue. Controversial, absolutely. But he forced the world to consider, should truth or popularity rule? Then came Aristotle. While Plato sought an ideal world, Aristotle looked at the real one. He believed that justice meant giving people what they deserve, not equality, but proportional fairness. To Aristotle, politics was the art of helping citizens achieve virtue. The state wasn't just about law and order, it was about forming character. Meanwhile, in the East, Confucius taught that justice doesn't come from harsh laws, but from moral leadership. A just ruler, he said, leads by example, not force. If the king is righteous, the people will follow. Justice isn't fear, it's trust. Across the world, these thinkers shape not just governments, but hearts. Because justice isn't only about how leaders rule, it's about how we treat each other. From the earliest days of civilization, humans have yearned not just to survive, but to live under rules that feel fair, meaningful, and dignified. We crave more than order, we crave justice. And yet, despite centuries of political revolutions, democratic constitutions, and declarations of human rights, we still wake up in a world where injustice prevails, where the powerful manipulate systems, and the voiceless are ignored. So, what is this elusive thing we call justice? Why does it still matter in a world seemingly shaped by self-interest and dominance? The answer begins in the mind of the philosopher. Plato, in his seminal work The Republic, envisioned a just society as one where every individual plays the role they are best suited for. He believed justice arises not from equality of outcome, but from the harmony of each part doing its duty, the philosopher kings ruling wisely, the soldiers guarding bravely, the producers working diligently. Justice, to Plato, wasn't merely a political arrangement, it was a reflection of inner order. When the soul is ruled by reason, supported by courage, and moderated by desire, the individual becomes just, and so does the society composed of such individuals. This conception of justice rooted in internal harmony still speaks to us today. It reminds us that the pursuit of justice begins not in courtrooms or parliaments, but within the human heart. We cannot expect a just world if we ourselves are torn by conflicting passions, unable to listen to reason. Imagine a society governed not by reaction and resentment, but by reflection and virtue. That is the desire Socratic and Platonic philosophy awakens in us, not merely to demand justice, but to become just persons. But Plato's vision also introduces an uncomfortable truth. Justice might require hierarchy. Are we ready to accept that justice is not always about everyone getting the same, but about everyone getting what aligns with their nature and capacity? Can modern societies, obsessed with absolute equality and individual autonomy, embrace this idea? Or Does justice in the modern world require a different foundation, one laid by thinkers like Aristotle, who introduced the idea of distributive justice, or by Enlightenment philosophers who fought for individual rights? Here, the desire deepens. We long not only for a just world, but for a coherent definition of what justice actually is. In today's polarized world, justice has become a battlefield of interpretations. For some, justice means freedom from oppression. For others, it means law and order. Some call for reparations. Others cry for meritocracy. Whose vision of justice should prevail, and how do we discern which one truly promotes the common good? This is where philosophy lights a path forward, not by offering easy answers, but by giving us the intellectual tools to ask the right questions. Through the Socratic method, we can strip away assumptions, challenge dogmas, and seek a clearer understanding of justice. Through political philosophy, we examine the roots of governance, the social contract, the legitimacy of laws, and the moral responsibilities of leaders and citizens alike. And in that exploration, a desire is born, a burning need to reshape not just our governments, but our values. When we study political thinkers like John Locke, who argued for natural rights, or Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who warned that man is born free, but everywhere in chains, we feel that desire swell in us, the desire to build better systems, to be more active citizens, to confront the hypocrisy of the state, and to imagine new forms of justice not yet born. We begin to see that justice is not a destination, but a process, a constant negotiation between ideals and reality. And in that tension, we discover meaning. Philosophy reminds us that justice is not about perfection, it's about participation. It's about being part of something bigger than ourselves, even when it's flawed. And so, we start asking ourselves, what am I doing to make my community more just? What compromises am I silently accepting in exchange for comfort or convenience? What injustice have I chosen to ignore? This is the call of justice. It is not a concept for the elite. It is a moral instinct in every human being. And once awakened, it becomes unbearable to ignore. That is the true power of political philosophy. It does not merely educate, it ignites. It makes us feel that we must act, must speak, must care. Because to remain indifferent in the face of injustice is to betray our very humanity. To truly desire justice is to understand that it cannot be given, it must be built, and we are the builders. Every vote we cast, every conversation we have, every decision we make in our personal or professional lives is a brick in the structure of the society we live in. The powerful myth is that justice is someone else's responsibility, the lawmakers, the judges, the politicians. But the deeper philosophical truth is this: justice begins in the soul of the citizen. This is what Aristotle meant when he said that man is by nature a political animal. He didn't mean we're all meant to be politicians. He meant that we are social creatures whose well-being depends on the quality of our collective life. And that means we must take ownership not just of our rights, but of our duties. True justice isn't found in slogans or manifestos. It is revealed in how we treat one another, in how we respond to conflict, in how we care for the vulnerable, the unpopular, the powerless. The modern world gives us tools for action, education, free speech, the ability to organize, to protest, to build coalitions. But without a clear moral compass, these tools can be misused or worse, ignored. Philosophers like Kant emphasized that justice is not just about consequences, but about principles. We must act in ways we believe should be universal. If I expect fairness, I must practice fairness. If I condemn corruption, I must refuse to engage in it even when no one is watching. Desire, in the philosophical sense, is not mere appetite, it is aspiration. It is the soul reaching upward toward what is noble. And so, to desire justice is to desire a life of integrity, courage, and commitment. It is to refuse cynicism. It is to believe that even in a world that is deeply flawed, we can be sources of light. Let us not be seduced by the myth that nothing can change. Political philosophy teaches us that history is shaped by those who dare to dream of justice. Socrates, risking his life to question the city. Confucius, calling for moral leadership. Gandhi, resisting empire with truth. Martin Luther King Jr., declaring that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. These weren't perfect men, but they were driven by an unshakable desire to bring ethical vision into political reality. And now, it is our turn. We don't need to be heroes, we need to be awake. To understand the systems we live under, to question the narratives we've been fed, to listen to those who suffer differently than we do, to speak truth even when it's unpopular, to participate even when it's inconvenient. That is justice, not a destination, but a devotion. This desire is what binds generations of philosophers and citizens. It is the fire that turned monarchies into republics, serfs into citizens, laws into rights. It is the desire to live not just in any world, but in a better one, a more just, humane, and dignified one. And that desire can start with a single moment of reflection. Maybe that moment is now. So, what can you do? Start by reflecting. Where in your life do you see injustice, and how might your own actions contribute to it? Ask yourself, am I ruled by wisdom or by impulse? Do I treat others as they deserve, or only as they serve me? Next, learn. Read thinkers like Plato, Aristotle, Confucius. Watch how their ideas echo in today's laws, conflicts, and communities. Speak up, but more importantly, live up. Live up to the ideals you say you believe. Be the leader in your space, even if your space is small. And remember, justice is not only in courts or Congress. It's in homes, classrooms, workplaces, it's in you. Because a just society begins and ends with just people.